Canadian healthcare is not what it is cracked up to be, and I can make a million videos like this, but I have a story I'd like to share. Before I continue, I know there's going to be people coming at me, but it's free. First of all, our taxpayer dollars pay for it. It's not free. Second of all, it's free, but you will quite literally go before you get the care that you deserve. So is free really worth it? I don't know. I'm also not suggesting that we only have private healthcare. I don't know what I'm suggesting, but I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just telling you a story about how awful our healthcare is. Mom was just telling me the story. They're with a couple, they're on vacation, and I believe it was the gentleman's brother that he was talking about. Don't quote me on that. It could have been his best friend, but I'm pretty sure it was his brother. Anyways, his brother lives in the same city that I live in, and he was recently diagnosed with prostate cancer. He's been going to and from the doctors, but we did not catch it in time, and it's around stage 4 prostate cancer. In our small city, we do not have the resources needed to care for this man, so they sent him to Toronto. In Toronto, he went to Medcan, one of the best facilities. This place, oh, I can't wait. I'm going this summer, and I'm going to have the full body assessment, and I cannot wait. But anyways, Medcan could not believe that A, this hadn't been found any sooner, and B, their statements were wild. So the man needed an MRI, and they said if he had waited in our local city, he would have been waiting about 1.5 years for an MRI. Luckily, he was able to get in Toronto, but it was still a 6-week wait. They told him, you will not make it 6 weeks. 6 weeks is too long for you because it's too far progressed. They suggested to him, we can't get you in for an MRI, and we're probably your best option, but if you just drive over to Buffalo, right over the bridge, it's 400 Canadian dollars. They'll get you an MRI. We will get your results back here today, and we'll be able to treat you given what those results are. I know how we all feel about the US. I get it. However, for $400, you better believe I would be driving my butt right over there to immediately get that MRI. New environment. But anyways, the man said to the Medcan doctor, why would I go to the US and pay $400 when our healthcare is free? I'm not going to go do that. And the Medcan doctor said, because you will be gone before you get the MRI for us to treat you if you wait here in Canada. He said, you literally are not going to, your chances of making it are next to nothing, because that's how long it's going to take for your free healthcare to give you what you need in order to get better. That's crazy. So when people think that, oh, Canadian healthcare is so amazing because it's free, you have to keep in mind, free comes with consequences, especially when we don't have enough doctors or resources to help our people. Like, we don't have the resources. And so the waiting lists for things like MRIs or surgeries or whatever it is are so long that people will continue to get sick before they can even be seen to try to be treated to get better. Anyways, I don't know what the solution is, but it's just crazy. I hear stories like this all the time from customers or family or friends, and it's just mind-boggling.
I've been in the emergency room now for 6 hours. I came at 8 p.m. and now it's currently 3 a.m. And the Toronto hospital just sucks. You have to wait here for so long, and it's free healthcare. But in the US, I could have done the same thing in 30 minutes. I guess we don't pay for it. We do pay for it with taxpayer dollars, but we don't pay for it. And that's why we have to wait so long. But this needs to be fixed.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if you had a medical emergency today? Would you be seen quickly, or would you end up sitting in an emergency room for hours before getting the care you need? For millions of Canadians, that question is becoming a reality. New data is painting a concerning picture of Canada's healthcare system. Around 1.5 million Canadians are waiting 14 hours or more in emergency rooms, and for patients who need to be admitted to the hospital, some are spending more than 2 days in the ER before a bed becomes available. This isn't just about long wait times anymore. It's raising bigger questions about whether Canada's healthcare system can keep up with the growing demand and what needs to change before the situation gets even worse. Today, we're taking a closer look at why emergency room wait times continue to rise, what's causing the backlog, and what healthcare professionals believe needs to happen to turn things around. But before we get started, if you enjoy honest conversations about what's happening across Canada, from healthcare and affordability to the issues affecting everyday Canadians, please subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and join our growing community. Let's get into it.
Well, the evidence is in, and it's a lot worse than we thought. And I honestly hate doing these TikToks, but if they keep talking about it in the news, then guess who's going to keep talking about it? I am. A massive report just dropped from the Canadian Institute for Health Information, and the numbers are not that great. Right now, 1 in 10 Canadian patients admitted to the hospital are trapped in the ER for more than 48 hours just waiting for a bed. And to put that in perspective, that is a 12-hour spike from a few years ago. And as emergency room doctors are pointing out, the ER is built for brief emergency care, not to be a long-term hospital ward. So what's happening? It's a massive bottleneck. People assume that the ER is full because too many people are walking in with the flu. But the data shows the real crisis is actually upstream. So don't come into my comments and be like, oh, it's because of immigration. Let's talk about what it really is. Alternate level of care. So first, the report notes that nearly 1 in 5 Canadian adults don't have a primary care provider. Without a family doctor, people wait until they're much sicker to be seen. So meaning that the hospital stays much more complex for much longer. Second, 8% of all hospital patients fall into the alternative level of care status. That means they are medically well enough to leave an acute care bed, but they are stuck there for an average of 24 days because there are no openings in long-term care or rehab or other home care programs. So the system is literally starved of capacity. And now let's talk about the political push for privatization creep, the claim that independent for-profit clinics will alleviate this pressure. Well, the actual economic evidence proves the exact opposite. A major study by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives called Failure by Design analyzed this exact crisis. They found that private for-profit clinics do not magically create new doctors and nurses out of thin air. Instead, they poach existing staff from our public hospitals. So when for-profit clinics siphon away nurses, public ORs and ERs are forced to downsize or cut jobs due to staffing shortages. The CCPA report directly links provincial underfunding to these exploding wait times, calling it a preventable crisis. Privatization does not shorten the line. It just lets the wealthier people pay to jump it, while making the public line significantly longer and more dangerous for the rest of us. We don't need a two-tiered system. We need a fully funded public system and home care and other options to make sure that healthcare is efficient and effective in Canada. So what are your thoughts about this? Let's continue to talk about it in the comments. Oh, and at what point are we going to, fix the nursing crisis?
Welcome to Canada. You'll die before you get help. If you want a glimpse into how fucked up the Canadian healthcare system is, I went to the emergency room about a month ago. I had severe constipation. Because I have a bowel resection, it caused swelling around the reconnection site, and my emergency doctor told me to follow up with a gastroenterologist. My doctor sent a referral to a gastroenterologist, and a month later, today, they sent a message saying, you already have a gastroenterologist. Denied. I don't even know what gastroenterologist I have. I haven't talked to a fucking gastroenterologist since maybe 2014. Who the fuck is my doctor? He doesn't know. My family doctor doesn't know what doctor I have. I don't know.
Regarding the 44-year-old male in Alberta, Canada that passed away in an emergency room, unbelievable. And I want to salute the wife for standing up and trying to explain what happened. She did mention some key points, which is complaining about chest pain, BP over 200. Look, I'm a nurse. I studied in Canada. My whole study has been done in Canada. As a nurse, we know if a patient is complaining about chest pain, so what you do, you check their BP. BP over 210, triage nurses. You should have calling the doctor ASAP. We have a situation. Blood test was supposed to be done. Giving medication to alleviate the pain. Go to the roots of the problems. It's not the system. People need to stop. We don't have, listen, yes, the system can be hard. Yes, you can be sitting in an emergency room for 8 hours. I've done it. I sat in an emergency room for over 9 hours. Okay, I understand that. But we have nurses, we have doctors, we have resources to save people. That has nothing to do with the system. The family actually should go after the nurse. The nurses, the people at the emergency room that understand you have a knowledge, unless you are not studied in Canada, because we have a bunch of nurses coming from I don't know where, I don't know how they end up getting their license, but if you studied here, you understand chest pain, BP over 210, it's an emergency. So it's not the system, it's the people at the emergency that didn't do their job. Very, very, very sad story. I feel so bad.
Hello, yes, this is a rant about Canadian free healthcare. If you are one of my American friends following me, I would almost rather pay I would rather pay for healthcare. To at least be seen by a doctor would be great. We are leaving the town that we are in right now, and we are one of the very blessed few who have a family doctor here. However, when we move, we will not have a family doctor. I know friends where we're moving to who have lived there for years and they still do not have a family doctor. Me trying to be productive, I'm like, I'm gonna book us all appointments, just for all the little things that should probably get checked out but haven't really been like an immediate thing. So I did that, made an appointment for myself 3 weeks ago. It took 3 weeks to get myself an appointment. I want to clarify. Go to my appointment today. I'm sitting in the waiting room. 20 minutes goes by, 30 minutes goes by, 40 minutes goes by, like 50 minutes goes by, and they call me up to the front desk and they're like, she's actually not here right now. Your doctor's not here. I'm like, okay, what? She's not here. So we're gonna have to reschedule you. And I'm like, okay, reschedule me. And they're like, we can't get you in for another 3 weeks. And I'm like, no, it's 6 weeks for an appointment. Mind you, all this appointment is for is because I have some marks on my skin that have popped up recently, and I'm like, I should probably get that checked out. Not urgent, but I'm still like, 6 weeks for an appointment is crazy, especially after I've sat here for nearly an hour. I just wanted to come on and complain and rant and just shake my head at how ridiculous it all is, because yeah, it's no wonder there's so many people who are sick in this country. Okay, the timing of my rant here is actually immaculate because I just opened up my mailbox and I received a letter that my family doctor is closing her practice. So I wouldn't even have a family doctor if I stayed here anyways, so divine timing.
According to the Canadian Institute for Health Information, 1 in every 10 Canadians who visits an emergency room now waits 14 hours or longer before receiving care. Think about that for a second. People don't usually go to the emergency room because they're having a good day. They're often dealing with severe pain, injuries, breathing difficulties, or other urgent medical concerns. For many families, every hour spent waiting feels incredibly stressful. And for patients who need to stay in the hospital, the situation can be even more difficult. Some are remaining in emergency departments for more than 2 days while waiting for an inpatient bed to become available. Healthcare professionals say these numbers reflect what they've been seeing on the front lines for years. Several factors are contributing to the growing backlog. Canada's population is getting older. More people are living with complex medical conditions, emergency departments are operating with limited capacity, and many Canadians continue to struggle with access to primary health care before their conditions become emergencies. Together, these challenges are placing enormous pressure on emergency rooms across the country.
How is this possible? I just got back from having a blood test and a routine checkup in Mexico, and it was literally 1,000,000 times better than it could have ever been in Canada. Mexico. It's so sad that as a Canadian, I have to fly down to another country, a way less developed country, to get medical support. It makes no sense. In Mexico, you text them on WhatsApp, the clinic, you walk in, there's nobody there, you get to see a doctor who, my doctor, she was really cool. She's wearing Converse, super cute little Mexican. Go on in, get the blood test, we do a whole routine checkup. I get my results in 6 hours online. No need to wait months to get an appointment like in Canada. No need to wait weeks to get your results. No need to get another doctor's appointment to get your... It's so ridiculous. And so when I hear Canadians say that we have the best medical system, I clearly know that you've never left the country. And when people think that the Canadian medical system is free and that healthcare is free, it hurts. The ignorance hurts so bad. Why do you think that almost half of your paycheck, where do you think that goes? Well, a lot of it is going to, we know, the nefarious agenda, but part of it is going to the super sad, super toxic, super contorted, super corrupted medical system. So no, you are not getting anything for free. And if you have traveled anywhere else in the world, you know that Canada actually has one of the worst healthcare systems in the entire developed world. So there you go. If you have any healthcare needs, any dental needs, any aesthetic needs even, I would say leave Canada and fly down to Mexico, or even better, go to Turkey or Dubai.
So this is what we have to look forward to in Quebec now that the provincial government has underfunded the public system so much that we're forced to rely on private options when we need urgent care. So I paid $150, okay, for a virtual consultation. Now, mind you, I'm disabled, I don't have a lot of money, and I wouldn't have spent that if it was not urgent. I have latent tuberculosis, and the medication that I'm on for that is interacting and fucking with a ton of the medications that I was already on, and it's not going well for me. But because of the underfunding of the public system, I would have to wait like 3 weeks to see a doctor through it. I don't have 3 weeks in the condition that I'm in, so I paid the $150. I get into the Zoom room. I wait there for 35 minutes, okay? I'm sitting there in this Zoom call waiting room for 35 minutes. I get a call from the clinic saying, "Oh, yeah, so the doctor won't be showing up today." They wanted me to use the same doctor that I used the last time I used this service, except that's not the kind of service that it is. It's basically a virtual walk-in clinic. You get the doctor that you get, and you use it when it's urgent. Except they had no idea when that doctor would actually be in to see me. And if this was not urgent and I had the time, I would have just gone through the public system and not paid the $150. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I want a refund. I want a refund. Give me a refund. She's like, yeah, well, I can't do that over the phone because it's actually through a separate service. So you're going to have to email. I email them. Hours go by. I get absolutely zero response. I'm literally still sitting here waiting for a response on the refund for the $150 that I didn't have, spent on like 30 minutes of waiting for no reason. So yeah, if you think that somehow having to rely on the private system is going to be better than the public system, it absolutely is not.
I have trauma because Manitoba's healthcare system didn't listen to me. Hello, my name is Jess. I'm a 26-year-old Métis woman from Stonewall, Manitoba. I'm a mother to a beautiful 15-month-old little girl, and I'm sharing this story because it could have ended very differently, and it shouldn't be happening to anybody. This story isn't about seeking sympathy. This isn't about attacking healthcare workers. This is about exposing what patients are enduring and what nurses, doctors, and paramedics are being forced to survive inside a broken system. Let's talk about healthcare in Manitoba. I'm currently recovering from serious complications after having my gallbladder removed. What should have been a routine surgery turned into a medical emergency. The worst post-op complication that you can get, and while I recover, I want to use my voice. Over the last year and a half, I've been hospitalized twice. Once during pregnancy, while I spent nearly a month in the hospital and had to deliver my daughter early due to complications, and now this. I'm focusing on my most recent experience because it's still fresh, still raw, but both hospital stays reveal the same thing. Patients and healthcare workers are being failed by the system that's meant to protect them. Bear with me as I am not the best speech giver, but this is a very important message and I really hope that you stick around to listen to it. This all started on January 4th. I went to Stonewall Hospital because I was having severe right upper abdominal pain. It was the closest hospital to my home, and like most people, I assumed it would be something manageable, something they could help me with, and just send me home. The staff at Stonewall did everything they could. Blood work, x-rays, monitoring, but Stonewall is a very small hospital. They don't have access to advanced imaging or surgical services, so they sent me to Selkirk the next morning for an ultrasound because Stonewall doesn't have one, and that's when they were able to book me in. January 5th, I went to Selkirk. I had the ultrasound, and then I had to return to Stonewall to get my results. I was told to return there so I didn't have to go over the triage, or to go over, the triage process, again. So, I was in pain, and, I just wanted answers. That's when I was told I had gallstones. From there, I bounced back to Selkirk again, this time for surgery. My fiance had to drive me back. The surgery happened. I was told it was successful. I was discharged the next day and sent home to recover. That's when shit hit the fan. It should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. 2 days later, I called an ambulance where I reported back to Stonewall, was treated, sent home that day because they thought I had gastritis. 1 day later, January 9th, I had to call an ambulance again. The pain was so unbearable. I couldn't breathe properly. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I was screaming in pain. I was begging for help at one point. I was literally asking them to knock me out because I couldn't survive like the pain I was in. It was that bad. I was in so much pain that I couldn't think properly. My heart rate was dangerously high. It was going from like 130 to 150, at times reaching 180. I was tachycardic from the pain. Nurses and doctors were doing everything they could to stabilize me. Blood work, x-rays, continuously monitoring. They believed me. But once again, Stonewall didn't have the equipment needed to be able to see what was happening inside my body. That's where the system broke me. For 6 hours, for 6 full hours, I laid there in excruciating pain. From 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., nothing touched it. Pain medication barely took the edge off. During those 6 hours, the doctors and nurses in Stonewall advocated for me relentlessly. They called the surgeon who had performed my gallbladder surgery. They explained the symptoms I was having. They explained my worsening lab results. They explained my heart rate. They begged for me to be transferred, and they were dismissed. The surgeon refused to take me back. He argued that it was just post-op pain. He didn't want to listen to me or to the doctors advocating for me. I was sent by ambulance to Selkirk for a CT scan, and then they sent me right back to Stonewall. But the doctor at Stonewall, the CT scan didn't really show anything that was wrong, but the doctor at Stonewall still knew that something was wrong, and my body was telling them that. After 6 hours of suffering, the surgeon finally agreed to see me, so I got transferred back to Selkirk around 8:30 that night. Even the emergency staff were alarmed by my condition. When the doctors are repeatedly checking your heart rate because they're worried that it won't hold, that's terrifying. Still, it took 6 hours for the surgeon to see me. 6 hours. It just took hours for him to see me at that point. He didn't believe me. Eventually, he decided he would perform an exploratory abdominal surgery the next morning. I was left in agony overnight. Surgery didn't happen until 11 a.m. It was supposed to occur at 10 a.m., but the surgeon was an hour late. And then the truth came. The surgical clips meant to seal where my gallbladder was had failed. They slipped off. Bile was leaking freely throughout my abdomen, and my body was being poisoned from the inside, essentially. They flushed my abdomen with like 4 liters of fluid, pressure washing it. Their words, not mine. They inserted a tube, which I can show, still coming out of my stomach, that's sticking out of my body today. Later, I required a 3rd procedure at HSC where they had to place like a stent down my throat to allow my body to heal, and it was successful. But I keep thinking about what could have happened if those nurses didn't fight for me, if I didn't scream, if I hadn't been quieter, or if I had been quieter, if I trusted that it was just a post-op pain explanation. Now, for the reason why I'm sharing this story. If you see me looking off to the side, it's because I have notes and I want to make sure every point is heard. During my hospital stay, I saw overcrowded emergency rooms. I watched patients grow angry, not because they wanted to, but because the pain and fear turned into desperation when help didn't come fast enough. I waited longer than I should have for medication, not because nurses didn't care, but because they were stretched impossibly thin. I overheard them calling supervisors, begging for help that wasn't coming. I waited days for surgery I desperately needed. I waited hours for transfers because there weren't enough paramedics available. I was delayed, dismissed, overlooked, until healthcare workers advocated for me when I didn't have the strength to do so. The system isn't failing because people don't care. It's failing because people who care are being pushed beyond their limits. There's chronic staffing shortages, overcrowded emergency departments, burnout, underfunding, poor retention, a lack of home care and long-term care that traps patients into hospital beds, and that's just to name a few. And the cost of it all, patients suffer, workers are burning out, trauma deepens. There were moments I was scared for my life, and being met with stress, exhaustion, or impatient only added to that fear. But I don't blame the nurses. I don't blame the paramedics. If anything, my heart breaks for them. I too would be exhausted beyond measure with the resources I was given, and I would be overwhelmed. I understand that they were not upset with me, but how their day was going, but because of how their day was going and result of all of this. To the nurses, you are the backbone of this system. You are the ones with eyes on the patients. You are the ones advocating when doctors rotate in and out, the ones holding hands, managing pain, catching what others miss. You deserve better pay, safer staffing, and real support. I don't blame you for being burned out or for leaving when you have to because it becomes too much. To the paramedics, you showed up when I needed you most, even while short-staffed, not being able to transport me when needed, and stretched thin. You treated me with dignity, comfort, and care. You made me feel safe. You did everything you could with the resources you have, and that matters more than you know. To the healthcare aides and all patient support and care coordination, I see you, I hear you. Thank you for all that you do. You deserve better. I may not understand every policy or budget line, but I understand this. Healthcare is not a luxury. It is an essential infrastructure, and when it collapses, everyone pays. Healthcare workers deserve to be heard, supported, and protected. Patients deserve timely, compassionate, safe care, and we as an economy and society need to stop accepting this as normal. Systems only change when people demand better. Vote with healthcare as a priority, support unions and frontline workers, speak up, show up, push for long-term solutions and not band-aids, because one day it might be you or someone you love lying in that hospital bed, and everyone deserves better than this. Lastly, let me be clear, this only touches the topic.
One of the biggest problems isn't simply getting patients into the emergency department, it's getting them out. Many patients have already been admitted to the hospital, but they remain in emergency rooms because there aren't enough available hospital beds. Others have completed their medical treatment but can't leave because they're waiting for rehabilitation services, home care, or long-term care placements that simply aren't available. As those patients remain in emergency beds, fewer spaces become available for new patients arriving with emergencies. It's a chain reaction that slows down the entire healthcare system. Another important issue being raised is accountability. Canada has known for years that its population is aging and that demand for healthcare would continue increasing. Yet many people are now asking why the healthcare system wasn't better prepared for this growing demand. Some healthcare professionals believe that improving the situation will require more than simply adding resources. They argue that there needs to be clear accountability at every level of the healthcare system, from hospitals and health authorities to provincial and federal governments, so that responsibilities are clearly defined and measurable improvements are actually achieved. Despite these challenges, doctors, nurses, and healthcare staff continue working under incredibly difficult conditions every day. Many describe the situation as frustrating and emotionally exhausting, but they remain committed to providing the best care they can for Canadians. The concern now is what happens if meaningful changes aren't made. Healthcare experts warn that without improvements, Canadians could face even longer wait times, increased pressure on emergency departments, and potentially worse health outcomes for patients waiting to receive care.
Have you ever wondered why the wait time is so long in Canadian emergency rooms? Well, here's why. So here's a brand new report from the Canadian Institute of Health Information, or CIHI, which dives into 7 years of emergency room visits in Canada. The link is in the comments below. So what we learn is that half of patients visiting emergency rooms in this country wait less than 2 hours, which is not bad, but 10% of patients wait more than 5 hours, which is really long. The most disturbing stat is that 7.7% of people actually leave the emergency room before being seen. So why is this happening and what can we do about it? So first of all, we are seeing a ton more emergency room visits just by volume. So over 16 million visits a year now across the country because we have more people are living longer, and people are living longer with chronic diseases. So a third of people visiting the emergency room had multiple comorbidities. That means they have multiple conditions, it's harder to diagnose them, it's harder to treat them, they spend more time in the emergency room. We used to say that part of the problem is that people come to the emergency room for minor things that could be managed in primary care, like a backache or a cold. But what this report tells us is that more and more people who are coming to the emergency room are really sick. 2/3 of people had a high acuity condition. So what can we do about overcrowding and wait times in the emergency room? Well, it's all about inputs and outputs. So outputs, getting out of the emergency room, is for people who need to be admitted to hospital. We need a place for them to go. The problem there is that hospital beds are often occupied by people who could go home, but who don't have access to home care, so they're stuck in hospital. They could go to long-term care, but we don't have enough long-term care beds, so again, they're stuck in hospital, and that prevents people from the emergency room from going up, which prevents people in the waiting room from being seen in a timely way in the emerge. The other thing, of course, always comes down to primary care. So if people have access to primary care, some of these problems can be seen in primary care, but most importantly, they will get the chronic disease care and the preventative care that will eliminate the need for that emergency room visit. So I know that many of you have experienced long waits in emergency rooms. We apologize for that. We are doing our very best. And reports like this tell us where we need to invest to make the whole system better so that all of you can have a better experience and a safer experience in our emergency rooms in Canada.
Canada's healthcare system has long been one of the country's greatest sources of pride, but these growing emergency room wait times are raising difficult questions about whether the system is keeping pace with the needs of Canadians. The good news is that many healthcare professionals believe these challenges can be addressed. They argue that the situation isn't inevitable. It reflects policy decisions, planning, and investments that can be improved with the right leadership and commitment. Now, I'd like to hear from you. Have you, or someone you know, experienced long waits in a Canadian emergency room? Do you think the biggest issue is a shortage of healthcare workers, not enough hospital beds, lack of planning, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your perspective could help others understand just how widespread this issue has become. And if you enjoyed these kinds of discussions about what's happening across Canada, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next upload. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.